Karen Hoas' laugh was a hyena's cackle, sharp enough to make the antique shop's glass cases rattle. She stood, a mountain of arrogance, sneering at the world as if it owed her its treasures. The tiny shop in downtown Hanoi, stuffed with relics of wars long past, was her latest hunting ground. She'd waddled in with her sister, Lynn, trailing like a nervous shadow, both of them eyeing the shelves as if they were at a buffet. Karen's meaty hands clutched a tarnished World War II medal, its faded ribbon dangling like a noose. "This is mine now," she declared, her voice dripping with entitlement, as if history itself could be bought with her disdain. The shopkeeper, Mr. Tran, a wiry man with eyes that had seen too much, wasn't having it. "That's a protected war relic," he said, his voice steady but laced with fury. "You can't just take it." Karen's lips curled into a smirk, her chins wobbling as she leaned forward. "Protected? By who? You?" "Some nobody in a dusty shop." Lynn, fidgeting with her purse, whispered, "Karen, maybe we should leave it." But Karen shot her a look that could curdle milk. "Shut up, Lynn. I know what I'm doing." The medal wasn't just any trinket. It was a Distinguished Service Cross, awarded to a Vietnamese soldier who'd fought alongside American GIs in 1944, a relic so rare it was listed in National Archives. Mr. Tran had spent years tracking it down, a labor of love for a man who'd lost his father to that war. To Karen, it was just another shiny thing to flaunt, another way to prove she was better than everyone else. She'd been like this her whole life, bullying her way through markets, sneering at waiters, cutting lines with a glare that dared anyone to challenge her. Today, though, she'd picked the wrong fight. The shop's air grew thick as Karen stuffed the medal into her purse, ignoring Mr. Tran's protests. "You'll regret this," he said, his voice low, almost prophetic. Karen laughed again, that grating, mocking sound. "Regret? I don't regret anything, old man." She turned to leave, her bulk knocking over a stack of vintage postcards. Lynn scurried to pick them up, muttering apologies, but Karen didn't look back. She was already dreaming of the Instagram post, the likes she'd rake in showing off her find. Mr. Tran didn't chase her. He didn't need to. He'd already pressed the silent alarm under the counter, a precaution he'd installed after a string of thefts in the area. The police were on their way, and Karen, blissfully unaware, was walking into a trap of her own making. Outside, the Hanoi evening buzzed with motorbikes and street vendors, but inside the shop, time seemed to slow, the tension coiling like a spring. Minutes later, two officers stepped through the door, their uniforms crisp, their faces hard. Karen froze mid-strut, her purse swinging like a guilty pendulum. "Ma'am, we need to see what's in the bag," one officer said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Karen's face twisted, her eyes narrowing to slits. "Excuse me? Do you know who I am?" she snapped, her voice rising to a pitch that made Lynn flinch. The officer didn't blink. "I don't care who you are. Open the bag." The shop was a stage now, and Karen was the star of her own downfall. She huffed, puffing out her chest, and launched into a tirade. "This is harassment. I'm a paying customer. I didn't steal anything." The lie was so blatant, it almost sounded rehearsed. Lynn, pale and trembling, tried to tug at her sister's arm. "Karen, just show them," she whispered, but Karen shoved her away. "Don't tell me what to do." Mr. Tran stood quietly, his arms crossed, watching the scene unfold. He didn't need to say a word. The truth was in the purse, and Karen's bluster was only digging her deeper. The second officer, a woman with a no-nonsense stare, stepped forward. "Ma'am, if you don't cooperate, we'll do this at the station." Karen's face reddened, her breath coming in short, angry huffs. She thrust the purse at the officer, as if daring her to find anything. "Fine. Look, you'll see I'm innocent." The officer opened the bag, and there it was, the medal, gleaming accusingly under the shop's dim lights. The room went silent, save for Karen's heavy breathing. Even her bravado faltered for a split second, her eyes darting to Lynn, who looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. That's not mine," Karen stammered. But the lie was as flimsy as the ribbon on the medal. The officer held it up, her expression unreadable. "This is a protected national relic. Stealing it is a serious crime. Karen's mouth opened, then closed, like a fish gasping for air. She tried to pivot, her voice dropping to a wheedling tone. Okay, it was a mistake. I thought it was for sale. I'll pay for it. Mr. Tran shook his head, his voice soft but cutting. You didn't ask the price. You didn't care. You just took it. The words landed like a slap, and for the first time, Karen had no comeback. The officers moved in, one pulling out handcuffs. You're under arrest for theft of a protected cultural artifact, the woman said, her voice calm but final. Karen's eyes widened, her bravado crumbling like cheap plaster. Arrest? You can't arrest me. I'm Karen Hoa. I have connections. But the cuffs clicked shut, cold and unyielding, and her protests echoed hollowly in the shop. Lynn, tears streaming down her face, tried to intervene. She didn't mean it. She's just like that. But the officers weren't swayed. They escorted Karen out, her bulk making the narrow doorway a struggle. The crowd outside had grown, drawn by the flashing police lights. Whispers spread like wildfire. That's the Hoa sisters stole a war relic. Unbelievable. Karen's head hung low, not out of shame, but because she knew the cameras were rolling. Her Instagram fame was about to take a very different turn. Back in the shop, Mr. Tran carefully placed the metal back on its display, his hands trembling slightly. He wasn't triumphant. He was tired. This isn't just a medal, he said to no one in particular. It's someone's sacrifice, someone's story. Lynn, still standing there, sobbing quietly, nodded. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have stopped her. Mr. Tran looked at her, his eyes softening. You can't stop someone who doesn't want to listen. The fallout was swift. Karen's arrest made local news, then national. The headlines were brutal. Hoa sisters caught stealing World War II relic. Karen Hoa's greed lands her in jail. Social media, her former kingdom, turned on her. Memes of her cuffed in the shop went viral, her sneering face plastered across X with captions like Karen Hoa versus Karma, 0 to 1. Lynn, mortified, deactivated her accounts and vanished from public view. Karen faced more than just humiliation. The theft of a protected relic carried a hefty fine and up to 3 years in prison. Her connections didn't materialize. No one wanted to touch the scandal. At her hearing, she tried her old trick steers, excuses, blaming Lynn Hutt. The judge wasn't buying it. You treated history like a toy, he said, his voice heavy with disgust. You'll learn respect the hard way. The gavel fell, and so did Karen's world. Months later, Mr. Tran's shop was quieter, but the metal was safe, now under glass with a small plaque telling its story. He'd added a handwritten note, pinned under a war helmet. Honor the past, respect the present. It was his way of moving on, of reclaiming the space Karen had tainted. Lynn visited once, leaving a donation and a quiet apology. She was trying to rebuild, to step out of her sister's shadow. Karen, meanwhile, was serving her sentence, her days of entitlement reduced to a prison cell, and a lesson she'd never forget. Karma, it turned out, didn't care how loud you screamed or how many followers you had. It came for everyone, even Karen Hoa. The end.